Okay, guys, we're on our last day of graphing these patterns in quadratic functions. And so we're going to start in the middle, labeling. So patterns in quadratic graphing. Part 6. And thank the Lord, this is the last one of this, at least the way that we are doing it now. On this sheet, you'll notice that we do have, the two sections. So we're going to do two examples from here. And then we're going to move on to our next piece. So I'm going to turn my paper so I can write on it this way. Directions are kind of the same. So make a table and graph. And then if y equals 1/2 x squared is going to be my equation for this one. Now, just like I started with before, I'm going to start with those x values of -2 to 2 and see how that works out. I am going to put this equation on the top of the second column, though. Now, I am going to go down one at a time, plug the x value in for the x for all 5 of these x values. So 1/2 -2 squared, 1/2 -1 squared, 1/2 0 squared, 1/2 1 squared, and 1/2 2 squared. Now, I do want you to realize that I'm trying to be careful when I do this to set these up. Some of these might be fractions, and that's okay. If you would rather on this, change them to decimals so it's easier to graph, I'm completely okay with that. So on the first one, once I take these pieces and plug them into Desmos. So the first one, I'm going to end up with 2. The next one I end up with 1/2. So if you want to make that 0.5, that's okay. Next one is 0. Then 1/2 again, which we can make a 0.5. Notice I'm starting to get those repeats. The last one is 2. So I'm good because at least now I can see these two match and those two. Okay, so we're going to take these and start to make points out of them. So -2, 2. -1, 0.5. 0, 0. 1, 0.5. And then 2, 2. Now, if I were looking at these, I will say, obviously, those 3 are the easiest ones to graph because they're whole numbers. We can still graph the other ones. We just are going to have to be careful with how we're doing that. Okay, so I'm going to take my paper just like before, and I'm going to turn it. And I'm going to go through so I can get them graphed. So -2, 2. And I'm going to do the green ones first. So 0, 0. and 2, 2. So I've done those three. Now to do these, you're just going to have to estimate. That's the best you can do. So -1 and then up a half. And +1 and up a half. So that you can get those. Okay, now I can start to see my U shape. I can definitely see how much wider this one is for sure. If we had our parent function would almost be sitting right inside of this. So the blue one is definitely wider than the parent function would be. Okay, let's go to number 2. So on number 2, oops. We're going to make a table and graph. And my equation is going to be y equals -1/2 x squared. So what's going to differ from the one before this than this one is that there's going to be a negative in front of the 1/2. Now that also means that when I get to graphing down here, if that value right there is a -1/2, that means it's going to open down. We talked about predictions. You should be able to predict that because that's the A value for this one. Okay, so I'm going to start to make my table. Starting out from -2 to 2. And I'm going to put the equation in the top of that column. And I'm going to start to plug in my values. So -1/2, 2 squared. Oh, -2 squared. There you go. -1/2, -1 squared. -1/2, 0 squared. -1/2, 1 squared. -1/2, 2 squared. So now that I've got them plugged in, I'm going back and putting each one of those into Desmos. So if I put the first one into Desmos, I'm going to end up with -2. Second one's going to be -1/2, or we can make that -0.5. Next one will be 0. Then it's -1/2, which we can make -0.5. Sorry, guys, trying to get rid of the bubble in the page. There we go. -0.5. And then for the last one, I'm going to get -2. So you do see those repeats that we need to be able to make that good parabola or U shape. Now let's put them together so we can get points. So -2, -2. -1, -0.5. 0, 0. 1, negative. Oops. There we go. 1, -0.5, and 2, -2. So I've got all my points. Remember, they came from putting these two together to get this, these two together to get this, and keep going through the table just like we've been doing. Okay, now I'm going to take this and turn it so I can start to graph. So first graph that I have is -2, -2. And like we said before, these whole number ones are the ones that are easier to graph. So I guess I'll start with those. So 0, 0, and 2, -2. So I've got the three that I kind of highlighted in green done. Now let's go back to this one. So -1, -0.5, and then +1 and -0.5. Oops. Again, make sure when you're graphing, it looks like a U shape. Hopefully you do a better job at this than I am. It's harder to do on the iPad. There we go. Okay, now, that's going to be the last of the ones that you're graphing with tables. Then we're strictly just going to be worried about what does the pattern look like. Okay?